Hello everybody, I got a great video for you today. This video is about grafting versus top working. Now a lot of people that are new to growing mangoes don't really understand the difference or even what those things are. Well, this is one of my favorite trees. This is a Kerry mango tree and there's mangoes all over this tree, but as you can see this one looks a little bit different. What I did was I wanted to learn about grafting and I experimented here and I grafted a Juliet onto this Kerry tree just because I had so many mangoes here just for an experiment to see how it was. It was successful. This tree is growing. I have one other graft on this tree, which is, I believe, an Angie, and it's somewhere up there. There it is. And that took as well. I did a few other grafts that didn't take. Now, this was just an experiment fun thing for me, but there's sadder cases where trees die or they're not productive at all and people decide they want to graft or, even more efficiently, top work a tree. And when you're top working a tree, you're going to cut it pretty much at the stump and then put new grafts or new Zions onto that stump. I know this is all quite confusing to some people. Some people have experience with it. But in today's video, I'm with Alex from Tropical Acres Farm. And we're going to talk about grafting versus top working. And this was a recent interview when I was at his farm, so check it out. So explain the benefit or not benefit between top working versus grafting an existing tree.
Right. So, I mean, top working is where you take a stump that's already been producing for a few years, or at least maybe it hasn't been producing for you, but at least it's gotten big enough to be producing, and you cut it back and you graft over it into something else, and then it comes back as a new tree, and no longer are you growing that variety that you had before, but instead you have something else and you're using its old root system to get fruit a lot sooner versus planting a tree that was grafted to a rootstock down near its base. You're going to be waiting for that tree to reach full size and full production for a while. Top working kind of fast forwards the fruit production process by quite a bit. You know, you top work a tree. Normally you plant a mango tree and you're waiting 2 years or 3 years just to get mangoes, and you're waiting longer than that before you're getting a lot of mangoes. If you top work something though, usually the next year it's not going to have any fruit, but the year after that, most of the time our top works will start fruiting, and they'll make a lot of fruit that first year. So you're really increasing the rate of production from the tree a lot quicker if you top work it versus just cutting the tree down and planting a new one.
And what's the difference between top working a stump versus grafting towards the end of the existing?
So when we top work, we're taking out the old canopy. We're taking away the old variety. And you could consider grafting to the branch tips a form of top working, but traditionally when I think of top working, I'm thinking of removing at least a big part of the old tree, if not all of it, and turning the whole tree into something else, or at least half the tree or something into something else. You can throw a few grafts onto a canopy and you'll have, another variety on it, but the old variety is usually going to dominate still if you haven't removed it. So.
And once you top work from the stump, what are the odds of the old variety coming out again?
Initially it's going to try to come back, and so it'll sucker and produce a lot of shoots below the graft, and you'll have to fight those, pinch them off or cut them off for a period of time. Usually after a year or so it will have stopped doing that because it will have generated enough canopy to be feeding the roots sufficiently that it doesn't feel like it's got to keep pushing growth below the grafts, and most of the growth or all the growth will be coming from the grafts, from the grafted branches. But initially you do have to control that growth that's coming out from the old stump. If you don't, it will come back and it will usually outgrow what you grafted into the tree. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Now while we're here, this is an example, everybody, of top working.
Yeah, so this was a lemon zest fall, and now it's an Indian mango called Jamadar.
Okay, so we cut that, and then you put the grafts on?
Yeah, so we like I said, we had to put it onto something, so we put Jamadar on here. Jamadar is a mango from Gujarat.
And what about the white paint? Tell everybody about that.
That's to keep it from getting sunburned. Mangoes can get sunburned if you cut the canopy off and you don't have anything to shade what used to be shaded all the time.
Is that special paint or anything?
It's just, in fact, it's not even necessarily full strength paint. I think we mixed some water in, and
well, can it choke the tree or anything?
No, we've had no problem with anything that we've painted like that, and we've had problems with trees that we didn't, and they get sunburned, and then
And there's another top work one.
Yeah, that's rosy gold.
Okay. So let me show people the stump here, because this is a great example of
so
a...
this is a big stump. This is an old tree. And you can see the limbs coming out of it. You can probably see the graft union on some of those limbs is still visible.
So those limbs are some of the old tree?
Yeah, they were shoots that came out of the old stump.
And what do you do with that? You just cut them off?
We graft to them, and then we remove some of the ones that are coming below. So I don't remember. I top worked this, I think, 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago I top worked this tree. And that's pretty good production for 3 years after you added it, you know, so.
Okay, everybody, so that was my trip to the farm with Alex, and he knows a lot about grafting and top working, but he has a big professional farm with 7 acres. My neighbor, who's a good friend of mine and grows a lot of mango trees, has done it on a smaller level, but he had great success. So I want to show you what he's done, because he's grafted many of his trees here. He's actually the one who taught me how to graft. But he had 2 trees. They were kit mango trees, and when he moved in, he planted 2 of them because they were one of his favorite mangoes. But then later he found out that they're susceptible to mango bacterial black spot, which is a disease for the trees, and unfortunately his trees got them, so he decided to top work them. He could have got rid of the tree, but he decided to top work it, and here's an example of what he did. So this is the stump from the original tree. He did paint it white, but the paint has since faded. And he took this mango, Honey Kiss. See, he cut the original one here, and then he grafted the Honey Kiss right here. And that was several years ago, and as you can see, the tree's growing real well, very well. Here's another example right here of the graft on this tree. This was the original tree. Now I'm going to show you an even better example of what he did. Okay, everybody, here's an example of the other tree he did, and you get a much clearer picture of what's happening. So if you come over here and you look at the tree, here's the stump, and he cut the stump, and then here you see the graft coming out of the stump. This one is a pickering that he put on this kid tree. And he cut this stump, and you can see it's growing really nicely right here. So those are some examples from my experience, or from my seeing other people's grafting and top working. Both of them are great. Both of them have their benefits, but they're both better than getting rid of the tree and replacing it. So I hope these tips helped you understand this better, and also keep growing, and that's the way you're going to learn. And just watch the videos, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Until then, everybody, thank you and keep growing.